The photo was already sent when Amara realized her mistake. Her heart dropped like a stone into cold water. The red check marks glowed on her screen, mocking her. Delivered. Read. Her hands trembled as she stared at the number. A number she didn't recognize. A number that definitely wasn't her boyfriend's. The sexy photograph she'd taken just minutes ago, the one meant to surprise Marcus after 3 months apart, was now in a stranger's phone. A stranger who, at that very moment, could be looking at her bare shoulders, the curve of her waist, the deliberate angle of the camera that suggested everything without showing too much. No, 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 Amara whispered, her voice cracking in the silence of her small apartment. She tried to delete it, her fingers stabbing at the screen with increasing desperation, but the damage was done. The message sat there, permanent and humiliating. She blocked the number immediately, threw her phone onto the bed like it had burned her, and pressed her palms against her face. How could she have been so careless? How could she have sent something so intimate to a complete stranger? What Amara didn't know, what she couldn't possibly know, was that the stranger on the other end of that message was not just anyone. 6 miles across the city, in a private room of an exclusive restaurant where politicians and criminals mingled like old friends, Jae-Won felt his phone vibrate in his jacket pocket. He was in the middle of negotiations with 3 nervous businessmen who owed him money, their faces pale and sweating despite the air conditioning. Jae-Won's expression remained cold, unreadable, as he slowly retrieved his phone. His lieutenants, standing by the door like statues in expensive suits, watched their boss carefully. Jae-Won never checked his phone during business. Never. But something made him look at the screen, and when he did, his dark eyes widened. Just slightly, just enough for his right-hand man, Minho, to notice. The image on his screen was unexpected, beautiful, a woman he'd never seen before. Her skin rich and dark like polished mahogany, her eyes confident yet vulnerable, her smile both playful and nervous. The photo was tasteful, but unmistakably sensual, the kind of image meant for someone who knew her intimately. Jae-Won's jaw tightened. He looked at the number, unknown. He looked at the image again, studying the face, the curve of her neck, the small, nervous gesture of her hand near her collarbone. "Sir?" one of the businessmen ventured, his voice thin with fear. Jae-Won didn't respond. He was already typing a message. "Who are you?" But before he could send it, the number disappeared, blocked, deleted, gone. For the first time in years, Jae-Won felt something he didn't recognize. Curiosity mixed with something warmer, something almost forgotten. He gestured to Minho, who approached immediately. "Find this number," Jae-Won said quietly, showing him the screen. "I want to know everything about her. If you're already hooked by this story, hit that subscribe button right now. We've got more intense AMBW romance coming your way. Drop a like and let us know in the comments if you've ever sent a message to the wrong person. Now, let's see what happens next." Amara couldn't sleep that night. Every time she closed her eyes, she imagined some creep staring at her photo, sharing it, laughing about it. She felt violated and stupid, a dangerous combination that kept her tossing in her sheets until dawn painted her windows gray. By the time her alarm rang, she'd convinced herself it would be okay. She'd blocked the number. The stranger couldn't contact her. It was over. But as she walked to the bus stop that morning, coffee in one hand and her work bag in the other, she noticed the black car. It was parked across the street, windows tinted so dark she couldn't see inside, engine running. Amara told herself she was being paranoid. This was a busy neighborhood. Black cars were everywhere. She got on the bus and tried to forget about it. At work, She buried herself in spreadsheets and client calls, grateful for the distraction. Her coworker, Jennifer, noticed her tension during lunch. "Girl, you look stressed. What's going on?" Amara wanted to tell her, wanted to share the mortifying story, but shame kept her quiet. "Just tired, didn't sleep well." "You need a vacation. When's Marcus coming back?" 2 more weeks, Amara said, though now the thought of her boyfriend made her stomach twist with guilt. Should she tell him? Would he be angry? Would he blame her? That evening, as she walked home from the bus stop, she saw the black car again. Same car, same spot. Her heart began to race. When she reached her apartment building, she glanced over her shoulder. The car was still there, idling like a patient predator. Amara ran inside, locked her door, and checked every window twice. She was being watched. She knew it now, felt it in her bones. Meanwhile, in his penthouse office overlooking the glittering city, Jae-Won studied the file Minho had compiled. Amara Johnson, 27 years old, financial analyst, no criminal record, no connections to any rival organizations, no reason to send him that photo except pure accident. The surveillance footage from outside her apartment building showed a woman who was clearly frightened, constantly looking over her shoulder. Jae-Won's expression darkened. "She's innocent," Minho confirmed. "Just a mistake, boss. She probably meant to send it to her boyfriend." "Then why are the Yakuza watching her building?" Jae-Won asked quietly. Minho's face went pale. "What?" "I saw the report. 3 of Tanaka's men have been spotted in her neighborhood. They must have intercepted the message before she deleted it. They think she's connected to me." Jae-Won stood, his tall frame casting long shadows in the dim office. "They think she's mine. What do you want to do?" Jae-Won looked at the photo again, the one he'd saved despite knowing he shouldn't have. "I'm going to see her, tomorrow morning, before they do." "Boss, is that wise? She's nobody. Let the boys handle it." Jae-Won's eyes were cold when he looked at Minho. "She became somebody the moment she sent me that photo. If Tanaka thinks she matters to me, then she does, and I protect what's mine." The knock came at dawn. Amara had barely slept again, her exhausted mind playing tricks on her, making her hear footsteps in the hallway, shadows under her door. When the firm, commanding knock finally came, she sat up in bed, her heart hammering so hard she thought it might break through her ribs. "Who is it?" she called, her voice shaking. "Someone you need to talk to. Open the door, Amara." He knew her name. The stranger knew her name. Panic flooded her system, hot and electric. She grabbed her phone, ready to call the police, but something in his voice, calm, firm, almost protective, made her hesitate. She crept to the door and looked through the peephole. What she saw made her gasp. A man stood there, impossibly tall and elegant in a black suit that probably cost more than her monthly rent. His face was sharp and beautiful, his dark hair perfectly styled, his presence commanding even through the distortion of the peephole. But it wasn't just him. Behind him stood 2 other men, equally well-dressed, their eyes scanning the hallway like soldiers on patrol. "I'm not here to hurt you," the man said, as if he could feel her watching. "But we need to talk, now, before they come." "Before who comes?" Amara's voice was barely a whisper. "The people who think you matter to me. Please, Amara, open the door." Against every instinct of self-preservation, against everything her mother had taught her about strangers and danger, Amara unlocked the door. The man stepped inside, and his presence seemed to fill her entire small apartment. Up close, he was even more striking and more dangerous. His eyes were dark and calculating, but when they met hers, something softened in them, something almost gentle. "You're the one," Amara breathed. "You're the one I sent the photo to." "Yes." His voice was deep and accented. Korean, she realized. "My name is Jae-Won, and I'm sorry, but your mistake has put you in danger." "What? I don't understand. I blocked you. I deleted it." "It doesn't matter." Jae-Won moved to her window, looked out at the street. "My enemies intercepted the message before you deleted it. They think you're important to me. They think you're someone I care about, and now they're going to use you to hurt me." Amara's legs felt weak. She sat down hard on her couch. "This is insane. I don't even know you. Why would they think that?" Jae-Won turned to face her, his expression unreadable. "Because men in my position don't receive photos like that unless they mean something. Because I made the mistake of trying to find you, because they've been watching, and they saw my interest." He paused. "I deal in dangerous business, Amara. I'm not a good man, but I'm the only one who can keep you safe now." "Safe from what?" "From the Yakuza. From men who would kidnap you, torture you, use you as leverage against me. From a world you never asked to be part of but are now trapped in because of a simple mistake." The room spun. Amara pressed her hands to her face, trying to breathe, trying to think. "This can't be happening. I have a job. I have a boyfriend. I have a life." "You had a life," Jae-Won corrected quietly. "Right now, if you want to keep living, you need to come with me." This story is getting intense. If you're feeling those emotions, hit that like button and drop a comment telling us how you'd react if a mafia boss showed up at your door. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss what happens next. Amara refused at first. Of course she did. She told Jae-Won he was insane, that she'd call the police, that he couldn't just walk into her life and turn it upside down because of one stupid mistake. But then, Minho, the quiet man by the door, showed her something on his phone, surveillance footage of 3 men entering her apartment building's parking garage the night before, their faces cold and professional, their hands near their jackets, where weapons would be hidden. "They were coming for you last night," Minho said. "We stopped them, quietly, but they'll come again. More of them next time." Amara felt the blood drain from her face. "Why? I'm nobody. I'm just a girl who sent a wrong text." "You're the girl who sent it to him." Minho nodded at Jae-Won. "That makes you somebody now." She had 30 minutes to pack a bag. Jae-Won's men stood guard while she threw clothes into a suitcase, her hands shaking so badly she could barely zip it. She thought about calling Marcus, but what would she say? How could she explain this nightmare? She thought about calling her mother in Lagos, but the conversation would go the same way. No one would believe this. She barely believed it herself. The car ride to Jae-Won's penthouse was silent and surreal. Amara sat in the back of a black Mercedes that smelled like leather and expensive cologne, watching the city pass by like she was already a ghost, already erased from her own life. Jae-Won sat beside her, his body angled toward the window, his profile sharp against the morning light. She wanted to hate him, wanted to blame him for this chaos, but when she looked at him, all she saw was a man carrying the weight of terrible choices. "Why do you do this?" she asked suddenly. "Why live this kind of life?" Jae-Won was quiet for so long she thought he wouldn't answer. Then, "Because someone has to maintain order in the chaos. Because the world isn't kind to people who don't take power when it's offered. Because I was good at it, and once you're good at something this dark, there's no going back." "Do you want to go back?" He looked at her then, really looked at her, and Amara, saw something flicker in his eyes. Regret, maybe, or longing. I stopped asking myself that question a long time ago. The penthouse was stunning and sterile, all glass and steel, and views that stretched to the horizon. Amara felt small, standing in the middle of the vast living room, her cheap suitcase incongruous against the marble floors. Jae-Won showed her to a guest room that was bigger than her entire apartment, then left her alone with instructions not to leave without telling him. For 3 days, Amara lived in a beautiful cage. She had everything she needed: food, comfort, entertainment, but no freedom. Jae-Won was rarely there, always off conducting his mysterious business, but when he returned in the evenings, he'd find her on the balcony, staring at the city lights, and they'd talk. Small conversations at first. Where she grew up, what she studied, what she missed about Nigeria. But slowly, carefully, those conversations deepened. "Do you love him?" Jae-Won asked one night, appearing beside her so quietly she jumped. "Your boyfriend." Amara considered the question. A week ago, she would have said yes without hesitation. Now? "I thought I did. But this situation, it's made me realize I barely know him. 3 months apart, and we've talked maybe 5 times. He never asks how I'm really doing. He just exists in my life without really being in it. Then why stay with him? Because it's familiar. Because it's safe." She laughed bitterly. "Though I guess nothing is really safe, is it?" Jae-Won moved closer to the railing, his shoulder almost touching hers. "Safety is an illusion we create to feel less afraid. But real safety, that comes from strength, from knowing you can survive whatever comes. Is that why you do what you do? To feel strong?" "No," he said quietly. "I do what I do because I lost everyone I loved when I was young. My parents, my sister. They died because my father was weak, because he couldn't protect them from the men who came for him. I swore I'd never be weak like that. I'd never let anyone I cared about suffer, because I wasn't strong enough." Amara turned to look at him, seeing him clearly for the first time. Not a monster, not a villain, just a man who'd survived trauma the only way he knew how. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "Don't be. That boy is gone. I'm what's left." But she saw the boy, glimpses of him, in the way Jae-Won made sure she had her favorite tea in the morning, in the way he asked if she was comfortable, in the way his eyes softened when she laughed at something on TV. She saw the man he might have been if life had been kinder. On the 4th night, everything changed. Amara was in the kitchen, trying to make herself dinner, when she heard shouting from Jae-Won's office. She crept closer, her heart pounding, and heard Minho's urgent voice through the door. "They hit her apartment, boss. Tore it apart. They're looking for anything they can use against us." "Did they get anything?" "Photos, documents. They know where she works, her boyfriend's number, everything." Jae-Won's response was a string of Korean words Amara didn't understand, but the fury in his voice was clear. She stepped back, her hand over her mouth, but the door opened suddenly and Jae-Won stood there, his face dark with rage. When he saw her, some of the anger drained away, replaced by something that looked almost like pain. "You heard?" he said. "They went to my apartment. They destroyed it." "Yes, I'm sorry." "Stop saying you're sorry." Amara's voice cracked. "None of this is your fault. It's mine. I sent the stupid photo. I brought this on myself." Jae-Won crossed the distance between them in the 2 strides, his hands gripping her shoulders, his face inches from hers. Don't you dare blame yourself. You made a simple mistake, a human mistake. What they're doing, what I brought into your life, that's not on you. That's on me. Then let me go. she whispered. "Send me away somewhere. Protect me by making me disappear." His grip tightened. "I can't." "Why not?" The answer to that question changes everything. Are you still watching? Smash that subscribe button and hit the bell so you're notified the moment we drop part 2 of this story. Like this video if you're Team Jae-Won, and comment if you think Amara should run or stay. Because, Jae-Won's voice was rough, almost broken. Because the moment I saw your photo, something changed. Because I haven't stopped thinking about you since. Because when I learned you were in danger, it terrified me in a way nothing has terrified me in years. Because somewhere between finding you and bringing you here, you stopped being a responsibility and became something I can't define. Amara's breath caught. Jae-Won. I know it's insane. I know you have a life, a boyfriend, dreams that don't include me. But I can't let you go. Not because you're in danger, because I don't want to. Before she could respond, before she could process what he'd just confessed, the building's alarm system screamed to life. Red lights flashed in the hallway. Minho burst from the office, gun drawn. "They're here," he shouted. "They're in the building." Everything happened so fast Amara's mind couldn't keep up. Jae-Won shoved her behind him, his body a shield, as Minho and 3 other guards took positions by the elevator and stairwell. The sound of gunfire erupted somewhere below them, echoing up through the steel and glass. Amara screamed, covering her ears, but Jae-Won pulled her into his office, locked the door, and pushed her behind his desk. "Stay down," he commanded, pulling a gun from his drawer. "No matter what happens, stay down." "I'm scared," she whispered. He knelt beside her, his hand cupping her face with surprising gentleness. "I know, but I won't let them touch you. I swear it on everything I am." Then he was gone, moving to the door, coordinating with his men through a comm device in his ear. Amara huddled behind the desk, her whole body shaking, listening to the sounds of violence getting closer. She heard men shouting in Japanese and Korean, heard breaking glass, heard Jae-Won's calm voice giving orders like he was discussing the weather instead of a gunfight. The office door exploded inward. 2 men in black tactical gear stormed in, their weapons raised. Amara screamed. Jae-Won fired twice, dropping both men before they could shoot. But more came, a flood of them, and suddenly the office was a war zone. Amara watched in horror as Jae-Won moved like a predator, every motion precise and lethal, protecting her even as he fought for his own life. Then a hand grabbed her hair, yanking her backward. Amara screamed again, clawing at the arm around her throat, and saw a man's face, scarred and grinning, above her. "Got her, boss," he called in accented English. Jae-Won's head snapped around. The expression on his face was pure murder. "Let her go. Drop your weapon, or I snap her neck." Time seemed to slow. Amara saw Jae-Won calculate the odds, saw him weigh her life against his pride, saw him make the choice. He lowered his gun. "Please," he said, and the word sounded like it cost him everything. "Don't hurt her." The man laughed. "The great Jae-Won begging? Tanaka will love this." He pressed the gun barrel against Amara's temple. "She must be special." "She is," Jae-Won said quietly. "She is." What happened next was chaos. Minho appeared from somewhere firing. The man holding Amara went down. Jae-Won lunged forward, covering her body with his, as bullets flew overhead. And then suddenly, it was over. The attackers were dead or fleeing. The penthouse was destroyed. And Amara was sobbing into Jae-Won's chest, clutching his torn shirt, feeling his heart hammer against her ear. "You're safe," he kept saying, his hands in her hair, his voice shaking. "You're safe. I've got you." Later, after the police had been paid off, after the bodies had been removed, after the building had been secured, Amara sat on the edge of the guest bed while Jae-Won cleaned a cut on her arm. His hands were gentle, careful, so different from the hands that had killed men just hours ago. "They came for me," she said numbly. "All those men died because of me. They died because they made the wrong choice, because they thought they could take something that belonged to me. I don't belong to you." Jae-Won met her eyes. "Don't you?" And maybe it was the adrenaline. Maybe it was the trauma. Maybe it was something that had been building between them since that first morning at her door. But Amara reached up and pulled him down to her. The kiss was desperate and fierce, full of fear and relief and something neither of them wanted to name. Jae-Won groaned against her mouth, his control shattering, his hands cupping her face like she was precious and breakable and his. When they finally pulled apart, both breathing hard, Jae-Won rested his forehead against hers. "I can send you away," he whispered. "I have resources. I can give you a new identity, a new life somewhere they'll never find you. You can be free of all this, free of me." Amara's hand slid up to his chest, feeling his racing heart. "What if I don't want to be free of you?" "Amara, what if that photo wasn't a mistake? What if the universe sent it to you for a reason? What if I was supposed to find you?" "You don't know what you're saying. The fear is talking." "No." She gripped his shirt tighter. "For the first time in my life, I see clearly. My safe little existence, my distant boyfriend, my careful plans. None of it ever made me feel alive. But this, you make me feel everything. And maybe that's terrifying, but maybe that's real." Jae-Won closed his eyes, something like pain crossing his face. "I can't give you a normal life. I can't promise you safety or peace or any of the things you deserve. Then give me honesty. Give me loyalty. Give me you." He opened his eyes, and what she saw there took her breath away. Vulnerability, hope, love, raw and new and terrifying. "If you stay, you're mine, completely mine. I don't share. I don't let go. And I protect what's mine with everything I have. I know. And you still want this? Want me?" Amara pulled him closer, her lips nearly touching his. "I sent you that photo for a reason, Jae-Won. Maybe I just didn't know what it was yet." This time when they kissed, it was slower, deeper, a promise and a surrender all at once. Jae-Won lifted her easily, carrying her to the bed, and for the first time since this nightmare began, Amara felt safe, truly safe, because she wasn't running anymore. She was choosing. The next morning, Amara woke wrapped in Jae-Won's arms, his body curved protectively around hers. Sunlight streamed through the windows, painting everything gold. She traced the scar on his shoulder, the one he'd gotten protecting her the night before. "No regrets?" he asked, his voice rough with sleep. "Should I have them?" "Most people would." Amara turned in his arms, meeting his dark eyes. "I'm not most people." He smiled, a real smile, rare and beautiful. "No, you're not." There were still problems to solve. Tanaka would retaliate. Marcus would call eventually, demanding answers. Her job was probably gone. Her old life was over. But as Jae-Won kissed her forehead and pulled her closer, Amara realized she didn't mourn it. That life had been small and safe and slowly suffocating her. This life, dangerous and uncertain and terrifying, was hers. She'd chosen it. Chosen him. "What happens now?" she asked. Jae-Won's hand traced down her spine, possessive and gentle. "Now I make sure everyone knows you're mine. Now I eliminate anyone who threatens you. Now I give you everything I have, everything I am. That's a lot of responsibility. You sent me a photo by mistake, he said, his lips curving. You changed my life by accident. I think you can handle it. And maybe she could. Maybe that girl who'd panicked over a wrong number was discovering she was stronger than she'd ever imagined. Maybe she'd sent that photo to exactly the right person after all. Outside the window, the city woke and moved, indifferent to the small revolution happening in the penthouse above. But for Amara and Jae-Won, everything had changed. A mistake had become fate. A stranger had become everything. And somewhere in the chaos and danger and impossible odds, love had taken root. That's the end of this incredible journey. If you made it this far, you're part of our amazing community. Hit that subscribe button right now so you don't miss our next story. Drop a comment and tell us, Team Amara or Team Jae-Won, and smash that like button if you want to see more AMBW Mafia romance stories. We read every single comment, so let us know what you want to see next. Until then, stay safe, stay strong, and remember, sometimes the best things happen by mistake.